Mike Shoesmith is our Canadian correspondent. Mike, it's good to have you with us this afternoon in the Oval Office, man. Talk to us about Mr. Hockey in Canada, because this has some connections to it that our listening audience is going to like.
Well, it's a big story up here in hockey country in Canada here, Carl, but let me go back a little bit here. I don't know if you've noticed, probably not because you're so busy, you don't have time to do all of this stuff that us normal little people do, but Netflix has uploaded a whole lot of content lately pertaining to World War II. I think, in my opinion, probably that's because, the British filmmakers in the film industry there, the documentary industry there, they're putting out a lot of World War II content now. I think that's because the people who actually were witnesses to World War II are dropping like flies now.
Yeah, probably.
And so they're trying to get all this content out there, get all these interviews in, get all this fresh content out there using the latest digital technology and so on. There's a lot of really good World War II content coming out on Netflix, especially. PBS actually has a new series out that's really well done, believe it or not. But I don't know why, but I have completely immersed myself in World War II culture. I just can't get enough of learning about that and what was going on.
Well, let me ask you: have you seen the movie Midway?
I have not, although it comes highly recommended.
Yeah, go see it. I'm highly recommending it. If you like World War II stuff,
Good.
It's very inspiring. Go ahead.
I've done there's a lot of Midway content online already, although I am looking forward to watching that. And I could talk for hours about World War II and what led up to that and so on. But as I'm watching, ingesting all of this material, learning about the dynamics and all of the different players and the 3D chess that's being played out there on the global scene, I'm watching all of this knowing that I'm a Canadian and all the dynamics that are happening in my own country. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. The parallels here are a little shocking from when I look at what's happening in my own country, and people might say, well, wait a minute, Canadians aren't slaughtering, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of undesirable people. And I think, well, aren't they? Isn't the Canadian government responsible for killing 100,000 preborn people every year because they're inconvenient and undesirable? Mm-hmm. Isn't the Canadian government doing that already? Well, the government doesn't have a Goebbels-type propaganda wing, don't they? Don't they? Mm-hmm. Isn't CBC Radio, isn't CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, a Goebbels-type propaganda wing for the Liberal Socialist Party of Canada? Because the Nazi Party was a Socialist Party, people.
Yes, they were.
And so I'm watching all this and I'm thinking, wow, this is absolutely insane. I'm drawing similarity after similarity after similarity of what is happening in my own country. A socialist country with a socialist government with a Goebbels-type propaganda wing. Goebbels took over all of the media and basically made that the propaganda wing for the Nazi Party. And so now, this past week, okay, if you are a diehard hockey fan anywhere on the planet, you know who Don Cherry is. Okay, if you are a Canadian who was born and raised in Canada, you know who Don Cherry is. If you are an immigrant to Canada and you had no clue who Don Cherry was before last week, you now know who Don Cherry is.
I get it.
Because Don Cherry. Okay, a little backstory on him. Don Cherry, for 40 years now, he is hockey. Okay, Don Cherry is hockey, and he's been hockey for the last 40 years. He spent the last 40 years of his life. He was a former professional hockey coach, and then he became a hockey commentator for CBC back in the 80s. They hired him, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation hired him to be a hockey commentator. Well, guess what? On the 9th of this month, he said the following, because he was leading up to Remembrance Day, which is like your Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Okay, it was leading up, and this guy's a diehard patriot, and he said on his show, which is played on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, it's a show called Coach's Corner, he said the following, okay, quote, "You people love," he didn't say you animals, he didn't say you monsters, he says you people love. They come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life, you love our milk and honey. At least you can pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that. These guys get paid or these guys paid for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada. These guys paid the biggest price. Now, the thing about the poppies in Canada are symbolic of the troops, especially from World War I, who gave their lives. There's a famous poem, you can look it up. It's called
Flanders
Fields.
Mm-hmm. Where poppies grow, rows of crosses. Yeah, row on
row. That's right. Yeah, and so the poppies are a symbolic ornament that we buy every year for Remembrance Day, and we pin that to our lapel. And we wear that in remembrance of the soldiers that lost their lives for this country to pay the ultimate price, as Don Cherry said, the biggest price, so that we can have this country. And even our national anthem says is a prayer asking God to keep our land glorious and free. And the glory and the freedom came at a price. You know, freedom that isn't free. Freedom costs lives to the tune of millions, hundreds of millions of men and women went over there so we wouldn't have to fight them over here at our front doorstep.
Right.
And so Don Cherry was simply making the point, you people, not you monsters, you idiots, you whatever pejorative you can put in there. He just says, you people love, they come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life, why don't you pay the proper respect and buy a poppy and stick it on your lapel and show the respect that we've been doing in this country for 100 years. And so Don Cherry, that was on the 9th. The following day, he was fired.
Yeah.
Fired 40 years. This guy is hockey in Canada.
Unbelievable.
And the CBC, the Goebbels propaganda wing of the Liberal Party, has just fired this man, this Canadian icon. Now, he has since moved on now. He has launched it because many of us, now there was a petition drive launched for Don Cherry to get his job back at Sportsnet. And the signatures, Carl, added up. No, this is a country with 33 million people. The signatures are at 500,000 and growing to get him reinstated at Sportsnet. Now, he has said, he could have gone back to Sportsnet with his tail between his legs and said, I'm really sorry. Sat in front of a camera and said, listen, folks, I didn't mean to be xenophobic or racist or anything like that. I should have worded that differently, and I'm sorry. He's not going to do that. His co-host, Ron McLean, did that for him because he's standing right next to Andrew Scheer on the spine donor list. You know, they're both waiting for spine.
Yeah.
His co-host,
and by the way, let me just say, Don Cherry was not xenophobic or racist in what he said.
No, absolutely not. Now, people, the switchboards were lit up with, the United Nations there in Toronto,
sure,
complaining about Don Cherry's remarks, saying that he was targeting them, and he was targeting people who come over here and want the milk and honey, but don't pay the proper respect to people who earned it and died for it.
Yeah, I'm glad we don't have that trouble in the United States. Little tongue-in-cheek there. Go ahead. See, there's a little delay here. See, humor just doesn't go well between you and me. First of all, you're a Canadian. You guys have no humor. Secondly, we've got... See there? See, that's what I'm saying. You should have laughed right there, but you didn't. But the other thing is we've got this delay. So sometimes the punchline, comedy is timing, brother. Timing's everything. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
All the violence in hockey has just knocked all the humor out of us, Carl. Don Cherry is 85. Don Cherry is 85 years old. He's a millionaire. He doesn't care. What he's doing now is he's just launched his own podcast with his son and his grandson.
Good.
And he's going to do basically the same show with his son and his grandson once a week like he did before, and nobody's going to be sitting in front of him saying, oh, no, Donnie, you can't say that. That is not going to happen. And guess what? This may be the most popular podcast on the planet eventually.
Yeah, it may be. Oh, that would be great. I pray it is. So how can our listening audience support Don Cherry? How can they get his podcast? How can they go to his website? How can they get involved in this? Because that would be really cool if it became that popular.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is Google Don Cherry, and your computer will light up with information about how to find out about it. Now, his first podcast is in the can.
Yeah.
It hasn't aired yet.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to access that yet. That news is yet to come out. But this is what he's doing. Just Google Don Cherry, Cherry, and your computer screen will light up with information on how to find out what happened to him and how he moves forward.
Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon has died, aged 8.
We are with one of Rabbi Kaduri's disciples.
הצלחה רבה, והצלחה רבה ומהירה, מתוך ביאת משיח צדקנו בקרוב ממש, ואז ישפיע זה על כל כדור הארץ. אנחנו להשם שמה, דין השם כדורים, ולצורך להשפיע ולצרום, כי כל כדור הארץ.
Gods of the final kingdom.
Not only things that he didn't know, there are things he still doesn't know.
Gallups, Gods of the Final Kingdom. There are things that Satan didn't know that are key to this, how this final kingdom is going to develop. What is it that Satan didn't know?
Thanks. Not only things that he didn't know, there are things he still doesn't know.